Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that Phi Phi Kappa, that used to be my fraternity. Yeah, I was a frat boy. Uh, Welcome back to another In the Eyes of Truth update. I am on vacation, which is why these updates are coming more sporadically. But there's a lot to talk about. Enough accumulation of idiocy and downright traitorism and evil that has gotten together and decided to allow me to make a whole video on this, and maybe several videos, because to cover everything would probably take hours, and people are waiting for me. So I apologize. I'll probably have to make 2 videos today and tomorrow just to cover the topics that, if nothing new gangs up. Where I am at, I cannot say for security reasons. So I will tell people later, once I'm home or homebound. But it's nice and warm, so that's a big plus. Actually, most of Russia's actually pretty hot these days. Anyways. So welcome back. Where should we start? Let's start with the Great Substitution. If you don't know about what the Great Substitution conspiracy theory is, it's the theory that all basically Christian lands are going to have their populations substituted. And that's been called a great conspiracy, blah, 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 blah. But then when you look at it, what the liberal agenda is and what the liberals are doing in every single Christian country in the world. And they are literally substituting, particularly every white Christian country in the world. They are quite literally substituting the local population, either with Islamics, particularly the more radical people, because nobody's checking to see what people's stances are, and they're bringing in mostly males of combat age, almost no families, or with other populations, and that includes Russia, because we still have liberals in the government, a lot less than it used to be, but in the 90s and early 2000s. The U.S., especially in the 90s, the U.S. And the U.K. planted a lot of liberals that were beholden to the West, not the Russian interests. They planted them in the Russian government, and these people, of course, brought in more people like themselves, equally minded people, who were out to destroy the country. A lot of times they do this, the liberals do this, because they despise the country they're in for various reasons. And they feel good about themselves, about the things they do. And that goes directly against their society, that goes directly against their culture. Rather than leave the country that they're in and go move to some country that fits their screwed worldviews, they'd rather destroy it and try to convert it to what they think is proper and should be done. So as you look at from society to society, as this great move goes forward, and there was a series of documents. I've seen one of these documents for Russia, anyways, from the UN, and it was done per country on by 2050 what the population of each country should be and how it should be changed. So Russia is scheduled to have 250 million people in it by 2050. Now, consider the Russian population right now is about 150 million, with positive immigration, but again, from where? So part of that immigration is more and more coming from Western Europe and from the U.S., but that's still a small percentage compared to my immigration that's being pulled in through businesses and through NGOs of various types from Central Asia and other areas. And that's causing all kinds of problems. Because again, it's cultural clash. Even though these areas were part of the Soviet Union and part of the Russian Empire before that, they're still radically different cultures, and the young generation has absolutely really nothing in common with modern Russia. The older generation at least grew up in the Soviet Union, but these grew up under countries whose elites and from 1991 ran Russophobic administrations, Russophobic theologies. That's some of these countries. That is all they were built on. So when they arrive, and a lot of them have been radicalized, Islamic radicalism has set in a lot of these areas. So when they arrive to Russia, of course, you start having problems. But now Russia, certain elements in the Ministry of Immigrations have decided it would be a good idea to bring in North Koreans, Indians, and Pakistanis without knowledge of Russian as workforce. Now, 2/3 of that isn't bad. 1/3 is. North Koreans have been working in Eastern Russia as is in with various visas, in various enterprises for the last 25 years, and successfully. And the people are hard workers, and they stick to their own problem, their own deal. There are no criminal issues of any import. And things like that. So basically, that's a success story. Indians have been moving to Russia by the education program and such since the Soviet Union. And the ones that were coming over are educated people. Again, I've got several friends that are Indians. All of them have Russian wives. They've Russianized. But they're all educated people, and they came first for education, then stayed for work. One of them owns several factories in Russia, works with the Ministry of Defense. So, these aren't people that are questionable. But the problem is when they start wanting to bring in uneducated labor, and part of it is the Pakistani issue. So you're looking at the same issue that happened to England, where by the way, the grooming gangs were almost all Pakistanis. So you're going to bring in these kinds of people that have already been a failure in the UK, in Ireland is an active failure, and other places into Russia. And the article that I'm going off of on this issue came out about a week and a half ago. And how'd you know it? About 2 days ago, there was a gang rape of a Russian girl in a suburb of Moscow by Pakistanis. That's right, by Pakistanis. So it started. The thing is it's not going to last very long because Russians don't tolerate it very long. So if it continues going down that road, there's going to be a pogrom. I'm not calling for that. I'm calling for the government not to allow these people in, because these people, particularly the Pakistanis, have shown themselves to be a massive headache everywhere they've gone. And you see that throughout Europe, and you see that in the U.S. and other countries. We don't need this. We're at the very beginning of this, and instantly you get a rape. So you understand this is part of a cultural issue, a very big, problematic cultural issue. And sweeping it under the rug isn't going to work for Russians, because we're not tolerant. And especially nowadays, people's hair is up, and they're not going to tolerate that. But then again, I've seen videos that are coming out of England these days where the mob is now beating the crap out of immigrants that are attacking people. Nobody has any tolerance. In Italy, too. The people are rising up, and they're not going to tolerate this anymore. They're not going to go down without a fight. And they are still the vast majority. So hopefully, of course, this won't go any further in Russia. But it has gone to terminal cancer level in Western Europe. And while we're at it, we go to Serbia. So Serbia, under Vučić, has been an economic disaster these days. Vučić that joined the sanctions against Russia. Vučić, whose factories are manufacturing not fully assembled but kitted artillery and other weapon systems like machine guns for Ukraine, and then selling them to Czechoslovakia, to Czech, that then slaps them together and gives them over to Ukraine. while he's playing, while he's pussyfooting around Russia. Help me out with this. Let's be friends with that. Vucic is two-faced. I've always said that he's a two-faced liberal scoundrel at best, and that's at best. And I don't think he's not near best. He's much worse than what he's shown. And his Minister of Foreign Affairs. So his disaster has led economic woes in Serbia. And Vucic wants into the EU. He will surrender everything. He is the anti-Serbian, just like Pashinyan is the anti-Armenian. If he thought he could get away with it, he would write off Kosovo and the Serbs in Kosovo in an instant, just like the anti-Armenian Pashinyan has written off Armenians in Karabakh to be exterminated by the Azeris. And that's, by the way, a separate issue, because the things are getting worse and worse in Armenia. And Kali Kallas, the ultimate diplomat of all humanity, the woman who makes a brick work for its intellect, was in Armenia celebrating the new program by the anti-Armenian against the Armenian church, who he said he was going to save now from itself, because the church went out and protested against him, because he's the anti-Armenian. He's the whore of Babel, the American / French installed whore of Babel. So anyways, back to Serbia and the other whores of Babel. So Mark Duric, I'm not going to be invited to Serbia now, at least under Vucic. I couldn't go anyway because that'd probably give me over to the West in handcuffs, just to kiss ass for the West. Unfortunate, because I really wanted to see Serbia. I've been all around the border areas of Serbia, but never inside of Serbia itself. I really want to see my brother Slavs. I have a very high admiration for Serbs, and I've had many Serbian friends. But unfortunately, the Serbian government deserves nothing but pitchforks and torches, and short ropes and high branches. So Mark Duric just signed an agreement with the foreign minister of Uganda. And this is the second agreement. First agreement was with Egypt to import 100,000 workers just for this year alone. Now, Serbia has a population of about 7 million people. Youth unemployment is at 24%. 24%. That's up to 24, 25-year-olds. So 16 to 25-year-olds, a fourth of whom cannot find work. Many have left and been encouraged to leave. This same government that has done all this to exterminate the Serbian population is now actively, not only are they spitting on the graves, because they're bending over backwards for NATO and the EU, spitting on the graves of all the people that died during the American murder spree in 1999, bombing and murdering Serbian women and children, bombing markets, bombing fraternity wards, bombing trains. Let's not forget all that. And I'm ashamed to say I was in the military at that time, as an officer, while we were doing such things. This is the same government's willing to spit on all of that. 24% youth unemployment. They've helped force out tens of thousands of Serbian youths to go work in other countries. And now they're going to import 100,000 just for this year of people whose either religion and or ethnicity does not jive with the Serbian one. So they're colonizing Serbia. I mean, 100,000 immigrants in 1 year. Think about that for a population. The last time I saw something like that was in Georgia, where Georgia is swamped with Indians, Pakistanis, East Asians, and Turks. And this is a country of 3.5 million. So it doesn't take much to start to overwhelm the population. And you see this in every single European Christian country. You don't see them importing them into Albania. You don't see them importing into Bosnia, the two Muslim countries. Oh, no, you don't see that. But you definitely see them importing into every single Christian country. So we've got that topic out of the way. So that's the anti-Serbian Vucic. The anti-Armenian. So Pashinyan has decided to make things even worse. The High Mufti of Azerbaijan is in celebration because he's been promised that all the Islamic holy sites inside Armenia are not going to be returned to Azerbaijanis because Azerbaijanis are going to be allowed to immigrate en masse into Armenia. When the church and opposition leaders came out in protest, two archbishops have been arrested, and Pashinyan has now declared that he's going to save the Armenian church from itself by purging it. You know, this is the anti-Slav in Kiev right there, Zelensky, number 2. You know, they all play off the same playbook, if you haven't noticed. And there's an American company now that's vying to control the southern corridor, where the anti-Armenian is handing 6 villages to be genocided of Armenians to the Azerbaijanis. The Azerbaijanis are, their balls are much bigger than their brains, and they are heading to a serious conflict with Russia and Iran. And I think with Georgia, because they hold certain amounts of Georgian land, historic Georgian land, where they're wiping out all Georgian archaeological footprints, claiming that Georgians have never been there. So people that are Turkic people that immigrated into that area while the Turks were invading, in areas where Georgians existed several thousand years before these Johnny-come-latelys showed up, are now claiming that Georgians were never there. So there's not many friends with Azerbaijan. Just the anti-Armenian, he's their only friend. Not the Armenian people who are going to be genocided by these guys, but the anti-Armenian who's sitting the throne. Luckily for Georgia, it's not an anti-Georgian in power, or actually a Georgian nationalist in power. Even if not hardcore, but things change. Because Georgia, whatever course it takes... we'll finish with Azerbaijan first. So things are heating up. They're not making the big headlines like they were at first, but they are heating up. Russia, which, by the way, I'm not even sure why we were importing Azerbaijani milk products, because Russia is the 3rd largest producer of milk products in the world, and growing. But there were 2 companies, Azerbaijani companies that were exporting into Russia, and they've now both been banned. I mean, and this is how you hit back against the Azeris, and before you hit militarily. You start banning their imports because they are very dependent on the Russian market. They've lost their oil revenues because the 3 oil processing plants, 1 in Haifa and 2 in Ukraine, have all been burnt. If they start a fist fight with Iran, the siphon oil pipeline runs not very far from the Iranian border, well within rocket and heavy artillery range. So that's got to get cut quick. But they're massing. They have actually... and they're planning on suing Russia. Yeah, Aliyev, his mouth is... obviously, I don't know what his brain's doing anything but sitting in his arse. He keeps talking a lot of crap. And now it seems that he's getting ready for at least a legal fight now with Russia. You see, he doesn't like having his mob friends get punished. Then you get that there's massing of our Azerbaijani troops on the Iranian border. Now, we know that round 2 with Iran is coming. The National Socialist regime in in Tel Aviv, or Jerusalem. I guess they're now in Jerusalem. I apologize to the Iranians. That was a mistake on my part. The National Socialist regime in Tel Aviv is going to go for round 3, or round 2. It's going for round 3 in Lebanon right now. And as a matter of fact, the Americans have chimed in. What else is new? And they've said that, unless the Lebanese disarm Hezbollah, they're going to split Lebanon into different parts, give part of it to al-Jilani and his Islamics to exterminate in the north, and for the Israelis to exterminate in the south. Because, Christian dead are a happy thing for America and the West. The more Christians they can kill off, and Alawites are a mix of Christianity and Islam, the more they can exterminate, the better. That's how it goes. By the way, for those American evangelicals who are so supportive of Israel, any problems with the Israelis burning down a Christian village in the West Bank, murdering the civilians? Oh, that's right. They're either Orthodox and Catholics. You don't consider those Christians. Okay. Yeah, you and God are going to have an interesting conversation one day. Hypocrisy, any? But anyways, because that's the West in the U.S. that support, oh, they burned down a Christian village. Oh, but those are Catholics, or, oh, those are Orthodox. That's not really real people. But anyways, it might get in, if we protest, it would get in the way of Armageddon for the rapture crowd. So there's that. As we roll on. Now, you get I'm not even going to go into Druze right now and all of that. That's for a later date. This video is going to be way too long as it is. So that's what we get right now. So round 2, I'm sorry, with Iran, the National Socialists in the West that are planning it. The Azaris are looking like they want to invade into northwestern Iran. I mean, you got to understand, this is a country of about 7 or 8 million people with a standing army of about 100,000 that wants to declare war against a country that's, 20 times larger, and is on the has totally ruined any goodwill or any neighborly relations, and much worse with a country to the north of it that's 20 times larger than it. Just so we understand where we stand. This is a country that wants to be wiped off the face of the map of the earth, obviously. But they're going to be the new Ukraine. Unfortunately for the West, this isn't going to be a Ukraine that they can support, and it's much smaller in size and population, and it's not going to stand in the field of battle for that long. But, they're willing to sacrifice. I mean, let's be honest. What are Azaris to America, or to the UK, or to Germany? Just meat. It's just meat. Just like everybody else. The Georgians were smart. They said, no, we're not going to be meat for you. And to that end, even though the Georgian dream was never directly anti-European, and they took let's work with Russia, and we still want to go toward Europe, but let's work with Russia attitude. Well, to that answer, and there's been 2 other answers, so this shouldn't be a surprise that this answer came. The other day, the Europeans have declared officially that they don't recognize the Georgian dream and the vote and the elections because, they didn't get their own way. So they don't recognize the elections. And they're going to do everything they can to overthrow the Georgian government. But, considering the Americans declared this 2 months ago, that they're going to, and the British a week after that, because they don't want democracy. And all 3 of them said, we support democracy, therefore we're going to overthrow the government that the people elected. They support their democracy, not your democracy. Don't ever make that mistake. That's the reality of it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how the West operates. Their democracy, because it's their law. It's their rule over the peasants. Whether it's their domestic peasants or it's foreign peasants. It doesn't matter. You're all meat for your elites. And don't ever forget that. And don't ever confuse that. So in order to bring democracy to Georgia, we must overthrow the popularly elected government of Georgia. Nothing new. But I mean, they're not quite as blatant as what happened in Romania, or quite as blatant as what's happening in Moldova, where the only way you can win the elections is by banning the participation of the Svoboda Party, which is the opposition to Maya, I am the whore of Babel, the anti-Moldovan Sandra. That's what they are. She's the anti-Moldovan. Merz is the anti-German. These people are the antichrists of each population. They are here to exterminate their own populations in order to suck them dry for power and riches. And war is the best way to do it. As they say, war is the health of the state. And they worship only one God, and that's the state. Not much different from Trump, if you think about it. If you watch how Trump functions, he's not Christian. His God is the state, the entity. Saturn in the Romanesque Saturn, Romanesque mythology. So there's that. There's that. Where else shall we go on? Because there's so many things to cover. Epstein, clown world, instant clown world. So obviously Trump's херня неимоверная. The shit that he fostered on everybody that Epstein really did kill himself. We just don't have the video of how he did it in a room that's supposed to be video monitored and human monitored 24/7. And that the Epstein list doesn't exist. Of course, he's got massive pushback. Massive pushback from that. So the Israelis are running ahead of the curve, and methinks you protest too much, screaming how Epstein never worked for them. Well, yeah, I mean, of course, because, Israel's going to tell you the truth. Of all the people in the world, those guys are going to tell you the truth. I mean, let's be serious about this. Netanyahu's government's really, they're just about the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing but the truth and only the truth and nothing but the truth. Right. Well, it's getting better. It gets hilariously better. Because apparently, now the standard push in the U.S. is, well, we can't say Epstein just killed himself because people aren't buying it. We can't say the Epstein list didn't exist, especially after we used that whole platform to beat our opponents in the elections on the head. But of course we can't let it out because all of our names are on there. So what do? Oh, and we can't say that, it's he was an Israeli agent, and the Israelis were using this as blackmail against most of the perverse child molesting leadership in the West. Because, the Israelis also feed us with our own money, by the way, as kickbacks for the money we give them. They just send it back to us as political creatures in the West. So what do we do? Oh, the Russians did it. I shit you not. That is the new twist where the Russians, because apparently some of Epstein's money was going through some Russian bank. So he was working for Putin. Epstein was a Putin agent, and Putin was blackmailing all of the Western leadership. My God, if Putin was blackmailing the Western leadership, that's got to be the most failed blackmailing job in the world. What did Russia ever get from the West for blackmailing the Western leadership? Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, this is at the level we're all working at nowadays. It doesn't get better. It gets only worse and more moronic. So yeah, we have that now. We have that. Ah, Lord have mercy. Help us all. So now Epstein is a Russian agent. That's the best that the West can come up with as it scrambles to murder off whatever democracy, honesty, or anything else it ever had. Epstein is now a Russian agent. Oh, yeah. There we go. But again, I mean, if the West can plant people like Kallis as foreign ministers, you get people like Merz and his foaming at the mouth generals that we're gonna We're building rockets with the Ukrainians are building rockets with our help. Those aren't our rockets. You know, they'll put a Dnieper on there or something. You know, just don't look under the hood. And by the end of the month, they're supposed to be flying into Russia, so we'll see. Because, you know, at least the Americans had enough tiny bit of common sense to freeze on the Tomahawk, since both raw missiles carry nuclear warheads, or are capable of carrying nuclear warheads. So any missile that's flying into Russia cannot be treated as a benign high explosive warhead. It has to be treated as a potential nuclear strike on Russia. And it's flying toward Moscow. It's a potential first strike on Moscow with a nuclear warhead. And the response is the extermination of America and Europe. Russia doesn't have a policy of gradual escalation with nukes. It just goes all in. You get the full shitstorm. You know, iron rain, baby. Except it's a uranium rain. So the Germans with Taurus are obviously willing to go that far. The Americans said, well, maybe that's a bridge too far. You know, do we want to be exterminated? I mean, literally, if you think about it right now, think about this. Now, if America had this capability, it would have used it already. No doubt in my mind. The American elites and the people that back them, including the people that vote for them, a lot of them have absolutely no moral compass, unfortunate to say. American elites, particularly, and a lot of the people are just ignorant and just go, hoorah, Team America, we're blowing someone up. That means we're good. No, it doesn't. That's what lowered education on purpose, lowered education does. America has a 21% illiteracy rate. Look it up. And it has a 32% rate that reads at 6th grade level or below. Or, at 4th to 6th grade level. 4th to 6th grade level is about 2nd to 3rd to 4th grade level in Russia. And 21% reads at 0 to 3rd grade level, which is basically 3rd grade level is about 1st grade in Russia. So effectively, half the American population is either partially to totally illiterate. If you look 20 years ago, or better 30 years ago, the illiteracy rate in the U.S. was maybe 2-3%. That's what, quote, reforming the education system has done. Nothing good. Unless you want to control a population that is all about consumption without any constraints and nothing else, and voting for whom they're told to vote, because it makes them feel good that they're bombing somebody. The Russian government, I mean, think about it, the Russian military, the Zircon hypersonic missile can be nuclear tipped. It was originally designed as a C-to-C missile, so anti-aircraft missile. But it has now been redesigned that it can go sea to surface, and is now capable of carrying nuclear package. A tactical nuclear strike. Of course, a tactical nuclear warhead in Russia is 75 kilotons. Hiroshima was something like 36 or 32, somewhere around there. I have to look it up. I don't remember exactly. So it's twice the size of a Hiroshima. If you launch that from 200 kilometers out at sea, Washington would have 3-minute notice if they even picked it up at launch time. You can't shoot it down because it's a hypersonic missile. It's maneuverable. There's nothing in the U.S. that can shoot down a hypersonic missile. You can shoot down a ballistic missile going at hypersonic speeds, because it's not hypersonic, it's ballistic. It goes on a prepared ballistic course that can be plotted, and you can try to send something in its way if you have enough time and distance. Hypersonic, it just maneuvers out of the way. Its course is changing. And the final vehicles that come in are normally glide vehicles. So there's not much you can do about it. In 3 minutes, Washington would be wiped out. Norfolk, one Russian nuclear submarine, in 3 minutes can take out every major military post on the East Coast. Okay, so if they go further south, say Fort Bragg or Cherry Point, that would take maybe a minute longer. But if they pop off east of Washington, they could take Washington, Norfolk, they could take Wall Street out in sheer minutes, and any other facilities. The bunkered facilities, even if they're inside of mountains, You know, so you nuke the mountain several times. You just melt it all down, and any communication gear is going to go away with it. In 3 minutes. And do the same thing on the East Coast. Any response, you know, any deeper strikes, yeah, they'll take 5 to 10 minutes to go deep inland and strike. I mean, those Zircon missiles, I think, have like 1,200 kilometer range. So 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles into the U.S., that brings you past the Appalachian Mountains, well past the Appalachian Mountains. So just, if you think about it that way. Now, if the U.S. had that capability, they would already do it. I have no doubt in my mind. Russia is not built like the West. Otherwise, a lot of nations in the West wouldn't exist anymore. Especially Germany. By 1945, Germany would have just been exterminated if Russians were anything like the Germans or anything like the French or the Americans. It would have just been mass extermination of the German population in revenge. Now, let's not forget, out of 6 million German civilians that died, 5 million of them died from American and British firebombing of every single German city in a bid to exterminate the German population. So all these Germans that are kissing American ass, think about that a bit more. Plus the million Germans that died in American concentration camps in West Germany that were active up to almost 1947. Another thing that the Western German government didn't exactly want to talk about, and they still don't particularly want to talk about. So there's that. There's that. So it is as it is. Like I said, this has been long enough. It's running hard and long. I will do another video and upload it to cover more topics, because there's so many topics. Good Lord. Suddenly this explosion of topics. Somewhat quiet, and off we go to the races, as usual. So, okay. Like the video if you will. Share. If you'd like to support me, description is in the description. You can find how to support me. If you haven't yet, switch on if you don't speak Russian, switch on subtitles, English, and watch Victor's interview. Victor was in Trump's entourage for like 7 years, so he's got some very interesting things to say. Do recommend reading the subtitles. What else? There's a lot. There's still so much more to go. So tomorrow I'll probably do another video and upload it. God bless. And just another little thing. There was a video that came out in Odessa on the beach. And the beach-going Ukrainians in Odessa are complaining that Russian drones flying overhead, heading toward military and industrial targets, aren't letting them vacation peacefully. Compare that to what the American Ukrainians do when they struck a Kursk city beach with drones. Not the big drones that are flying, but small drones, so they knew who they were hitting. And they struck the actual beach. And they murdered 3 people and injured 5 others. About a little over a week ago. And one of the people that died was a 5-year-old boy who threw himself on the body of his wounded mother to cover her and save her. And the next explosion critically injured him, and he died in hospital. Think about that. First of all, think about the bravery of this child, of a 5-year-old. He didn't run. He covered his mother with his own body. Another of the victims was a sergeant from Rosgvardia, Rus Guard, who were evacuating wounded people. A sergeant in the Rosgvardia, and he died while saving wounded civilians. God rest their souls. And that's the difference. If you had any other difference, there you go, is the difference between the way we're waging war and we normally waged war. You know, in Milan, until it became immoral for the Italians, Suvorov is remembered fondly. Because when Suvorov defeated Napoleon and the French, and they evacuated Milan, Suvorov defeated Napoleon several times, for Suvorov was retired. Suvorov and his army marched to Milan. And the Milanese women, mothers, were bringing their daughters out, kissing the hands of the Russian soldiers. Why? Because unlike the Europeans, because we're not Europeans, we're Russians. We are not Europeans. And Europeans better thank the good Lord that we are not Europeans. Because there'd be a lot less of them alive right now if we were Europeans. When Suvorov took Milan, the standard for the Europeans was 2 to 3 days of pillaging. Rape, murder, pillage as you like. You release the army and they do as they want with the civilian population. Even if you, quote, liberated the city. The Russian army marched in, marched through, and marched out without a single incident of any rape, pillaging, or murder. Because the penalty for the Russian soldier to commit any of those was execution, summary execution. That's the difference between us and the Europeans. Maybe it's just our version of the Christian faith. Think about it. God bless.